The following presentation will demonstrate how to disassemble and reassemble a standard desktop computer. For this disassembly and assembly, we are using a standard PC desktop tower made by eMachine. The computer has a 100 gigabyte hard drive, 250 megabytes of memory, and a DVD-CD rewritable disk drive along with other hardware. Before you begin, you must disconnect all wires, including the power, monitor, Ethernet, mouse, keyboard, and any other external hardware that is physically connected. On this machine, there are 6 screws securing the casing, which can easily be removed with a Phillips head screwdriver. Once the casing is removed, you will have access to all of the internal components of the computer. This is a good time to take stock and note all the internal components that your PC has that you will be removing, and your strategy for doing so. The first thing we removed was the power supply and cooling fan. We started by disconnecting the fan attached to the motherboard. You then must unplug the power supply and its fan from all the parts it supplies power to, including the motherboard, DVD drive, and hard drive. The power supply can then easily be lifted out. Before moving forward, the ribbon cable should be detached from the disk drive and motherboard. This allows for an unobstructed view and workspace to move the rest of the parts out. Once you remove the ribbon cables, you have access to the motherboard and all its components. The first thing we pulled out were the 2 RAM memory chips. They had been mounted in these 2 slots in the motherboard and can easily be removed by unfastening the clips that hold them in and carefully wiggling them out of place. The next piece of hardware we removed was the CPU fan. This fan is responsible for keeping the motherboard and its circuitry cool. The fan must be unplugged and then it can be removed via the 4 screws attaching it to the PC. Once unplugged and unscrewed, the fan can be easily removed. There may be more than one internal fan. They are all removed using the same process. We then removed the PCI data fax modem card. This card fits into a slot similar to the RAM chips. It is removed by unfastening the clips and wiggling it from its position. The disk drive has already been disconnected from when we unplugged the ribbon cables. It was connected to the inside of the computer via 2 screws. Once these screws are unscrewed, it can easily be slid out the front of the computer. The hard drive was also attached via the ribbon cables. Once it's unscrewed from the casing, it can be lifted out and put aside. Now that the motherboard is unplugged from all its components, you need to unscrew the 6 screws attaching it to the casing, and it can also be lifted out. To reassemble the computer, we basically did the reverse of the disassembly. We first dropped the motherboard back in and reattached the 6 screws we had removed. Once the motherboard is back in, we can attach the fan, which screws in with 4 screws and is plugged directly into the motherboard. The hard drive can be reattached to the casing with screws. It is not necessary to attach the ribbon cables immediately, since they will obstruct our view. This should be done last. The disk drive can be slid back into the empty slot and secured with screws. Again, it is not necessary to attach the ribbon cables at this time. The modem or data card is reconnected by wiggling it back into place and securing any clips. The 2 RAM chips are reinstalled the same way. Gently wiggle the cards back into the slots in the motherboard and secure any clips. At this time, we also plug the power supply back into the motherboard. Attach the ribbon cables back into the hard drive and disk drive. The power supply and casing can be secured with screws. Once you have screwed back on the cover, you are complete, and all you need to do is plug in the external hardware and your computer will work perfectly. The websites listed were used as research tools to complete this project.